League1 Ontario Commissioners Carmelina Moscato and Dino Rossi here to discuss Friday's news of the cancellation of the League1 Ontario 2020 season for the summer portion. Anyways, there's some caveats that we'll get to. My name is Marty Thompson with KMPL.ca. First off, let's explain this decision. Maybe it's a little anticlimactic in that, there really aren't places to play, and with COVID-19, there's a lot of moving parts, but maybe explain the decision and what were some factors that went into it.
So essentially, we came together as a board. We're lucky enough to have Johnny Misley, Eva Haveras, myself, and Dino part of this board back in March. And as we all know, this has been a really fluid situation. So we knew we needed to weather the storm. We needed to wait till we made a sort of final decision. And the principles guiding us were really definitely health and safety, as we all have reiterated multiple times. That should be an assumption, the health and safety of everyone we are working with. And the possibilities continually change with regards to what's allowable in the province and the country and on a government level, but then add in the layer of on a sport level. So I would go as far as to say every day we learn something new, but one day you have to draw a line in the sand, which is June 5th.
Yeah, especially with the news that is coming out of several municipalities around the province where our clubs operate, that large group gatherings won't be permitted on city-owned fields until September. That there kind of was the final straw for us. There's no way for us to have a appropriate League One season starting in September for all kinds of different reasons.
Yeah, and maybe we can jump to there, because I feel like the key to Friday's announcement is that the summer season is canceled, but you're not leaving 2020 out entirely. So what could that look like?
Well, we're willing to entertain whatever's possible. And what we mean by that is sort of tournament formats, as we've seen down south with the NWSL. They've given everybody in every sport a nice model. We know the CPL is where every league is working on some sort of amended competition format. So we would be just as willing to do that based on what is necessary for our membership. There's some key pieces of information missing with regards to the university and college systems. Will they run? Will they not run? For how long? And how many of the players are affected?
Yeah, precisely. Carmelina and I will be working actively on a variety of different contingency plans. Obviously, everything hinges on facility owners giving the green light for competition to start, in addition to Ontario Soccer and Canada Soccer giving the green light as we go through the various phases of return to play that would allow us to get back on the field for competition. Right now, we are going to be working sort of in hypothetical mode, but we want to have a variety of options ready once we have a much clearer picture, so that we can consult with our license holders and then actively start planning for a launch date when we feel comfortable one will be feasible.
Right, because maybe go late into the fall. I don't want you guys to speculate too much, but what could that look like? And I think, Carm, you've mentioned as well, to me, there's discussions about maybe even raising the age limit for certain competitions like that. Like, what are some options there?
Yeah, I think you nailed a really important piece of this. It's the people, right? So we look at the organizations themselves. So our license holders are predominantly youth clubs and academies. So the first thing would be to check in with them, how they're doing, how their organizations are doing. And we all know there's been a lot of temporary and permanent layoffs. So what is the state of their team, let alone the state of the players, at that time? So I think what we're really looking to do is create whatever's possible to get people playing. If that has to do with removing age barriers and things of that nature, again, no decisions have been made. We have to think deeply about this. But like most other leagues, the 2020 solution might just be for 2020 and an adaptation of that year, of our circumstances and context this year. But we have to get to the heart of the matter, and mostly just getting people out there enjoying their football again.
Yeah, I agree with Carm 100%. We don't know right now what cohort of players we're going to want to serve or be able to serve. As she mentioned earlier, the Canadian university and college soccer programs, it's still a bit up in the air whether they're going to operate this fall. If they don't, then there will be a large number of players who would have otherwise been engaged with their schools who will have gone, 10, 11 months without playing active competition. And we feel we have a responsibility for at least providing some level of platform. But yeah, we're going to have a number of different contingencies prepared, and everything will hinge on when we can start and when we must stop.
Yeah, maybe this one's for Dino to start, but how does this affect the clubs, and what was the impact for the clubs? Because, obviously to go, the players without going a season without playing in the summer is a huge deal, but what about some of these organizations that are part of League One?
Carmelina and I have reached out to all of our license holders, and I'm sure we've spoken to a number of clubs outside of League One. This has been a very devastating time for the Ontario soccer landscape, and I'm sure the same across the country. As Carm mentioned, clubs have been forced into doing temporary layoffs, furloughing employees. They are in a kind of a stasis mode. They're not sure exactly what the future holds. Clubs that own facilities, that have big mortgages on them, that's got to be very tough for them. Very stressful time for the leadership of many of our clubs. But one thing that's come out in all the conversations we've had is how they want to retain that connection as much as possible in 2020 with League1 Ontario. And that is what ultimately drives us to not throw in the towel, and to keep working to create some type of plan that will allow us to take the field, even if it isn't what we would call a proper season, even if it's just a tournament, just to be able to retain that connection and to provide players something from a competitive standpoint for 2020.
So we're seeing, you mentioned the CPL, Carm, some of those Ontario clubs are actually going back to training. They're in sort of a phase one. It's very premature, but what makes League1 Ontario different from that? Because I'm sure a lot of people would see this announcement and say, hey, I thought, Ontario teams are training, but what makes it different?
It's the laws in which we're governed. We're governed by, provincial and with a provincial organization, in this case, Ontario Soccer. Amateur sport has not returned to play in any way. Professional teams and programs and organizations, franchises, have very different resources and the ability to, even the things that are consistent with regards to testing, masks daily, protocols that require medical oversight are additional costs that, for an amateur league at this point, we haven't been able to provide. Plus the fact that most of our players are working and have responsibilities to their family and work, and the incentives at this level in terms of payments, it's not their primary job. I think we have to continue to remember that these amateur players are doing their best and often have to, they break even or often have to pay to play in terms of their resources, gas money, food, to participate. So we want to respect the people in the league and the level that we're delivering to. And there's some resources that at this level of the game cannot be provided. And those are the harsh realities. When you see Bundesliga and everyone else getting back, and even York 9 and Ottawa, you're excited, but we have to understand who and what we are.
Yeah, and we still await formal return to play protocols from Ontario Soccer that need to be approved by Canada Soccer. So once we have a better picture of what return to play looks like, we look forward to working with our clubs to try to help them implement appropriate, safe strategies that will allow them, at the very least, to return to some level of training, but within the parameters of the return to play plan required.
And Marty, some of the things that are also interesting is around, and Dino, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a lot to do with the insurance aspect. Insurance does not cover pandemics, of course. So the language around insurance policies under sanctioned events has to still be we're still growing into this new reality and how that would happen. And then what Dino said, we're fully committed to, if the implementation of masks is a guarantee at this point. So even sourcing those masks and making sure we're just helping as much as possible to make sure that that's as smooth as possible.
Yeah, totally. The 2020 League 1 Ontario season canceled for now, I guess we'll say, until Dino decides to put together some massive World Cup style format somewhere.
Dino, it's all on you.
I was going to point my finger at Carm. I thought you two was going to handle it.
Have you thought about a format like a group stage knockout? Like, it'd be a lot of fun to do.
The NWSL Challenge Cup, as Carm rightly stated, provides one model. We've bounced a few ideas. If we had hoped maybe that return to competition might have been able to start as early as the beginning of September, maybe even late August, but that hope seems to have been premature and now dashed. As such, it kind of makes it more difficult to stage a short league schedule. So a tournament style seems to be the most obvious. But what we want to do is come up with a tournament setup, if that's what we ultimately go with, that maximizes the number of games that we can play in the period of time that is feasible to play outdoors.
Yeah, I wanted you to give me a little bit more fun of an answer, but I totally get it.
I'm not fun.
Give you the real stuff.
I'm not fun,
Anyways,
fun. You got to ask Totera to come on the.
Okay, Dino and Carm, thank you very much.
No problem.
You got it.